Yep. Level the top edge, 3/4 of target right.
Certainly got some push to it.
Yeah, okay.
They're coming out nice.
Yeah.
You're shooting nice. Yeah, okay. Got off more pressure that one.
Okay.
But nothing wrong. 2268.
Yep. Middle bottom, just off bottom edge.
2266. Right next to it.
Yeah, just on the very bottom edge.
Let's do another one exactly the same.
Radio.
As I see a little group.
Okay. Just next to it. Just a little above.
Between 260, so it's pretty good at all that sort of stuff. That's good.
Yeah.
And that's not a terrible group.
Yep.
It's a fair bit of push, as you can imagine.
Yep. Okay.
That's 500 grain projectiles going out there.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's do the maths on that. So I guessed at 2300.
Okay.
So I'm not far off my guess. Looking at just that. I'm going to go to 81.
Okay.
Go across another 2 minutes of wind, and we'll try these. So we can do 5 down there.
Radio. No visible wind at the moment.
Okay. See where we go. You ready?
Yep. Good to go. Oh, just over top.
Got the silver butt go all the way there.
Yes. Nice and straight, just behind target, so just over top.
Back to 80. That's down 10 inches. I think I'm going to get a little bit further down. Go down to 79 MOA.
Okay. Oh, got the chain. Hit the target though.
It's a shackle. How to manage to break that off?
Yeah, it may have just been the impact.
Yeah.
Oh, now we get to see the back of it.
They certainly are a big impact, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's definitely a lump to shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to be one that you want to shoot.
Yeah, okay, mate.
We'll buy it there and knock it off, eh?
Radio. Hit. Moved it around. I think it was the bottom right corner. See if we can see it when it comes back. It's a little hard to see on that, on the reverse side.
Well, have a look in there. Not a bad test to start things off with, but...
Yeah. Hit bottom. Yep, bottom edge, and I think it must have ricocheted on the frame. Everything got a shake then.
Okay, well, last one.
Rightio.
That's good and doing the right thing.
Yep.
It's definitely a bit of a brute to shoot.
Okay.
You're going to come back into view? Oh, yeah.
Oh, it moved. Target flinched.
Okay, well, it's definitely a bit of an animal,
Okay.
but it's working all right.
Yeah.
It's working all right. Okay, well, cool. First test with the 45 120.
Yep.
G'day guys, welcome to Market Sam After Work. Well, that was our first effort with this one here. Well, sort of the next step in this one here. This is I suppose it is a project with the 4570 it started with. Now we've gone to the 45 120, which I'll get more into it in a minute. But really, it's an old school project going back to what would have to reasonably be considered one of the first cartridges or cartridge rounds. So the Sharps rifle, or there was the falling block, and there were basically rolling block and high wall and bits and pieces back then in the mid to late 1800s. They came from muzzle loading that went through to paper cartridges, that went through to brass cartridges. And in the beginning of that place came in the 4570 government and the 45 120 Sharps. There's other cartridges and things around that time, but that's right at the beginning of it. So this project is really with the aim of showing how, when people ask what is the most accurate cartridge, what is the most accurate round, what's the most accurate caliber, not the best way to say it, but all those sorts of things, and these new ones are better, whether it's a new release from these guys or it's a Wildcat from that, is that this is so much better for all these wonderful reasons. And accuracy is the main thing they're asking about. I'm really in a process of going through and wanting to do it just for the fun of things, a little bit for the content and provide some interesting looking videos, but also to ultimately be able to say that it comes down to pretty simple stuff. How fast the projectile is traveling, the quality of the projectile, the firearm, the shooter, all those bits and pieces have relevant details to it, but there's not too much in all the stuff about how efficient or how smart a cartridge is designed. Although there's a little bit in it, it's largely amount of powder, size of bullet, and the rest of it that are just as important. So with that, then going to the first of the cartridges in a general sense. So the 4570 is where we started, and we've been through the process with this rifle. I'll explain a little bit more in a minute for the people who don't know, but started with a normal old hunting round in a 4570. We've been through various other ones with the Hornadies here, with the Spitzer bullet. That is actually a decent hard cast 525 grain projectile. And then to get out to 1900 yards, which we did do with this fella with not the best conditions we're shooting in. No target moving, no.
Hit. Yes, 3 o'clock. Hit on plate. Okay. It's on there, mate.
Into a upper hill, but basically with the wind coming over the top of the hill. So pretty hard work for any rifle actually in that format, and certainly stretching it with the efficiencies of a hunting projectile in this 4570 cartridge, but still got on there at 1900 yards by pushing the projectile out a little bit, running a bit more powder and getting a bit more speed into it. But what it really opened into was to get that bit more efficiency, to get a better projectile, to get a bit more speed. All the rest of it was go to a bit more grunt, a bit more boiler room. And the obvious was of the same era was the 45 120. So I haven't gone to I'm carrying on the process in not just a step up in the cartridge, but I'm stepping straight into that better projectile. So a higher BC, something to deal with the speed. Also, and what I'm actually talking about there is that yes, I could set up this sort of rifle. It hasn't really got the length of barrel. This is only a 26-inch barrel, but you could go back to the old school, like the Sharps, like the Shiloh Sharps rifle, and go to a 34-inch barrel and run black powder and a 500 grain, somewhere around the grain lead projectile, paper patch it and all those bits and pieces, and compete with or do exactly what they did. We could set up something like that in this rifle, but we still have those problems of trying to stretch it out further, which is what I'm trying to build, ELR, so a precision ELR rifle. And one of the limiting factors, well, there's two limiting factors there. One is how black powder works. It's a softer, bigger push, but it's a more gradual push. But it will, or you can create more speed with longer cartridge to a degree, but you have a limiting factor of, in using a lead projectile, you will start to melt if you run too fast. They'll start to lead up your barrel and they'll start to damage the projectile too much with too much speed. I don't know where that speed is, I haven't done the proper research, but around the 1700 feet per second is what I would pick as a speed where you're going to start to run into problems. So going to jacketed answers that problem. It's easy, it's what we've been doing forever. So in that format, although the smokeless powder is a little more aggressive, so there's a bit more aggressive recoil, it certainly can create, with less powder, create more speed. Now this isn't actually a jacketed projectile, and I'm doing some more looking and working things out, and there's a fair bit of stuff to do in that path. These are actually a solid copper projectile. I don't know if they're machined or they're swaged in this shape or forged in this shape. I'm not really sure with these fellas. But they are solid copper, and we have some real evidence of that here. Here is a couple that's at 600 yards, what the projectile looked like after it hit that target, and that's at the 1155 yards when it hit the target. So this is a heavier target, 3/4 inch steel. This is only 10 mil steel, both hard steels, but still you can see they definitely went through their deformation process, and are definitely in a we collected the ones that we found there. They definitely are a solid copper projectile. I would say in the load development, or what I've got to do there, I've got some more work to do. This was really, I'm into this before I thought I was going to be into this. We're moving into what should be summertime, and I had a couple of different projects or different shoots to do, which needed some dry dirt. We had a decent storm in the middle of it, 35 inches in about 15 minutes or 20 minutes type thing, so there's a lot of rain in our little neck of the woods for a moment. But it meant that was only a couple of days prior to going out to shoot this, but it meant that I'd lost my dry dirt. So I had to find something to fill that gap. Fortunately, that same next day, the 145-120 ream showed up. So I hoiked this barrel out, I used the ream and went forward to the 120, set everything back up. I have to do a little tiny bit of trimming brass, where I just take a little tiny bit off the back edge so it'll fit into the lapua bolt face, and there's a little bit of just idiosyncrasies to make that work. But it meant I then went out with a very quick load, actually using 2208, so Varget, which I don't think is ideal. I think it's a little bit fast burning, but I've got a little bit of fishing around to do. And what we ended up with, as you saw when we're shooting with those 500 grain projectiles, fair bit of recoil. I'm not the best creature to show recoil, but it was fairly reasonably aggressive to shoot. And it's running in the 2265 was the average of what we saw. So decent speed. But I'm expecting probably another 100 feet per second I should be able to attain from it, but maybe it's a slightly slower powder and a bit more of it, I don't know. We're running almost double 308 Winchester round powder load. We're running almost double that side of things, so there's a decent amount of 2208 or Varget. But I think that's a little bit quick for this. A little bit to work out. I suppose I'll go through and explain the rifle for people so you know where we're at. But I suppose the basics of it, very happy with how it's going. Certainly for stepping into it and basically a 2-day setup and in the way of working out a load and then running all the rounds or the brass to machine it up to get it ready to go, to put it together as projectiles to go out and do that. You saw basically we shot 12 rounds in total. I think there's only a couple of rounds you didn't get to see, which we just checked the speed to start off with, but everything worked really well. It worked really nicely, and the rifle shooting really well, which, like I said, I'll get into the rifle for people who haven't been through it. This actually chassis is a custom chassis, and I got some bits from Gareth at GCPD, which included lots of the bits and pieces. I modified the receiver massively to get this lapua bolt face. It's actually a Barnard action into it. That's a right hand bolt, left hand feed. It was something that they had there that I thought I'd like to try. This is super impressive action. Single feed, which is exactly what I want to use anyway, but that actually gives them more strength, and everything about it has worked really well. This action in this chassis, with all the trigger and all the bits and pieces, different scopes run on top, but otherwise all the rest of it with this forend that I made for it and my bipod system, it started running the 300 Norma, then we changed over to the 3378 Weatherby Magnum, then it did the 33 XC, then it's done the 4570, and now we're into the 45-120. Actually, that's the same barrel for those two. As I said, just run it forward. Different muzzle brakes amongst those lines to go with the different barrels, but it's working really well and shooting very, very nicely. A lot in the basic structure of what I got from Gareth over there, but also in the setup to suit things. It's just really getting all your liner push, all those bits and pieces, all super relevant, and has performed really, really well. Really happy with it. Action, really nice, really strong, very reliable. You certainly have a reasonable claim on, one of the best in the world, which I really do enjoy using the whole deal of the Barnard actions. The barrel side of things is only really cheap. This is 26 inch, like I said. I've forgotten the brand I use with this, but it's just what I could find in Australia and get it done to do the 4570, and then one of my big thread muzzle brakes on the front of it. It has performed really well on doing what it's supposed to do. It was one of those barrels that was a little bit scruffy in either end. The gunsmith was a little worried about it, but listen, it's working really well. So I do have a Swan barrel. They did up a really nice one for me, which is going to give us sort of a 28 inch barrel, which I may use in here. At the moment, I'm going step by step. As the testing process, I've got that one to step up to or step back to, however you want to look at that. But it's sitting there ready for maybe once I get this sorted out and I go to a 28 inch in the 45-120, there'll be a little bit more speed. But hey, while this is working, I'm not complaining about it. I mentioned my bipod system. I should say I've been using, you'll see the extensions on the bottom here. Well, I should say a bipod system is this component A up the front. It runs the Atlas bipod legs. I use the long Atlas ones. It just works nicely for me. And then have these extra extensions with the solid feet on the bottom. It really has been a bit that really does stabilize things. There's no little squishiness of rubber or anything, with nice balls on the end, and they work really nicely on that score. It's got one of the Night Force, one of my original Night Force Attacker scopes on it at the moment. I have run the March scope on here. This is just set up to where it was nice and simple, ready to go from the last shoot we did at 1900 yards. So that'll work very nicely. And then one of my heavy bag riders on the back of it. The rifle weighs about the 23 pounds. So it's not a lightweight, but equally when it comes to moving a 500 grain projectile at 2260 feet per second, there's a fair bit of recoil going on there. It does push fairly hard. I could go to a 5-port muzzle brake. That'll help a little bit, but really it's not really a problem on that score. The main thing that I think I'm going to do is basically slow down that powder. If I can run a 2209 or a 2213 or listen, I've got to do the research and figure out what goes there. I have got a big cartridge. It isn't a bottleneck cartridge, so it needs to burn fairly quickly to get that bullet accelerating properly. But I think I'm a little bit in front of the curve at the moment. But time will tell. I've got a little bit to do there. I really want to stretch this one out quite a bit further, but I suppose this is just an update to show you where we're at in the, like I said, the old school, or in this case, 4570. It's turned into 45-120, where we're at that process. So, with all this, I mean, that's the rifle. Like I said, shooting really nicely. The round, really just the beginnings of it. We'll see. I've got to do research on the powder I'm running. I'll do research on the projectiles I'm running. Something with a little bit of boat tail would be able to take this a little bit further. But it's not doing badly either. Our efficiencies, this has a 0.431 G1 ballistic coefficient, which isn't terrible, but it isn't awesome. And hopefully in the 2300 to 2400 feet per second, it means that we're going to get out to, with a Charlie track, that sort of things on the 2500 yards is quite conceivable. But we'll have to play those games as the season comes by. I should comment on these projectiles, and the very notable bit that we set up in our sort of normal sun behind us shooting in the morning is that big shiny butt. Don't know if it's flashing to you there, but that was very, very noticeable. Something that my little spotter, Sam, was actually being quiet about, but quite distracted by when she was actually watching that, was that real flash of light of it going to target, very much looking like a tracer and that side of things. Actually something that's not uncommon for us to see early in the morning, even on something as small as a 7mm. But of course, the smaller the butt, the less light. The 308s is the place, and 338s is where we normally sort of see it. But to see it in something like the 45 cal in a, in not a machined, but like I said, I think swaged. Maybe they're polished. I don't know what it is. They look like they're swaged, but I don't know how they're made actually. But that was definitely quite a bright sight for us. Actually, if you look at that video, the 1155 yards was not that obvious on the video. For Sam, when she was in on target, it was still very, very bright in on target. So it was something that was almost distracting, was her words on it. But listen, just interesting, and that's something I put together a short of so people could see that side of it. But working really nicely, really happy with it. It's the whole lot's working a treat, and look forward to stretching it out later on in the season. Hopefully that we move into summer. I say hopefully, no one likes the extreme heat, but still as we dry off and get a little bit more of our dry country, and when they start stripping the crop and we get some paddocks back, then we can start to stretch some things out. We've got a few more of the, a few interesting ones actually coming. But we've got some delays this year, as everyone in the world has, so we'll sort of make the most of things as we go forward with a couple of little interesting projects I've got coming. So stay tuned, everyone. And other than that, thank you very much for checking in. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you next time.